Well, I think everyone's wondering about the sentencing that's coming up. And you probably saw the article I did where the prosecutors are talking about 6 to 8 years, and that's just a minimum. They might seek more. But it seems like one thing you're got to be really thankful for is the amendment to the guidelines that says they can't consider acquitted conduct. And the prosecutors seem ready to make an argument around that, but the judge seems a little wary just based on what he filed yesterday. But what's your take on that?
For those who follow you, you posted the order yesterday. Thank you very much. I was not on Pacer, so I read it on your X account. The order asks both sides to survey, for lack of a better term, anybody convicted on these two counts. But I don't think he distinguished between plea or at trial. And by the way, as you know, the federal criminal jury trial is a vanishing breed more than the dodo bird. I mean, there are not that many federal criminal jury trials. Almost everything is done by way of a plea because of the acceptance of responsibility. And I had a federal judge once tell me, Mr. Geragos, you go to trial, you lose, you get tax, tip, and service charge for losing. And that's normally the case. So when the judge is asking for that, that has got to give you some hope that he is going to follow the law and he's not going to kind of punish Puff for going to trial. And by the way, nor should he. I mean, it takes an awful lot of balls to roll the dice and go to trial when you know the consequences. And the consequences in this case it was a your life case.
And then a lot of people bring up not just life, but the financial consequences of RICO, right? Could they have seized his assets and really made it difficult for his kids too?
Oh, I mean, he's at one point, he was reputed to be one of the first Black billionaires. And I only say that because that was kind of bandied about. But I mean, when you think about the financial, and it reminds me of that old Jack Benny joke when Jack Benny, for those who are too young, he was a famous comedian. And he used to do this joke where somebody put a gun to his head and said, your money or your life? And he didn't answer. And they said, your money or your life? And he says, I'm thinking. And there are a lot of people when faced with your money or your life might say, or that has quite an effect on you. I mean, that's a tremendous kind of decision to have to make.
Yeah. Well, do you know, have you heard about any preliminary research on the transportation to engage in prostitution convictions? How many cases are there where it's just that charge that there was?
I sat in the courtroom during the bail hearing and I heard Agnifilo argue, which I had forgotten. That's why Marc Agnifilo is such a great lawyer. I had forgotten about the Emperor's Club investigation, which was in I believe the Southern District, maybe the Eastern, but in New York, which one of the people who was famously patronizing the Emperor's Club, which was reputed to be a prostitution ring, was the then sitting governor, Eliot Spitzer, who was never charged. And generally the case. In fact, those who listen to me pre-trial, I said, and I've made the argument that the design of this, if you take a look at that statute, the Mann Act, this was not designed to get at the John. This was not, the end user, if you will. If it was designed for the end user, Meghann, I don't know where you're sitting right now, but I'm just a stone's throw from Burbank Airport. Go there tomorrow, Friday, on the afternoon, and see how many people are getting ready to go to Las Vegas to have sex and are going state to state out of Burbank to Vegas. You could make the same argument. And by the way, in the Ninth Circuit where we sit, which is not the circuit where he was tried, famously, because Judge Kaczynski once said, the power of the government is that any U.S. attorney, if given the opportunity, can find 3 federal violations on anybody walking around. And that's that's the enormous power that the government has. And also the responsibility to judiciously use your prosecutorial discretion.
Yeah. So moving forward, do you have any predictions on what his sentence is going to be? I mean,
Look, I think it shouldn't be. I don't think it should be more than 19 months, 20 months. That's. I think that would be a harsh sentence, given just informally the kind of survey that I've done and that level. He has no criminal history. He was acquitted on his only major case, which was 25 years ago. The cases I've handled for him, he was never filed on, and and criminal history makes, as you know, a huge difference on the guidelines. And the application, it's very hard to find people who are just charged with these as standalones.
Yeah. So it seemed like the tone and just what he's requesting does not benefit prosecutors, because the chances that they're going to be able to find some cases where somebody has gotten even more than a couple years, it seems unlikely. And some of these cases might end up being pretty old that they have to dig it up.
That I would imagine, when you look at this, the Mann Act was at one time called the White Slavery Act, and it was famously used on Jack Johnson, who was the heavyweight champion in the early 1900s, African-American, white female. Chuck Berry, black musician, famous, iconic figure, black musician. Those are Charlie Chaplin, I believe, who was white, was prosecuted but acquitted, and famously. But it's really used infrequently, and it is not targeted here. And yet part of what came out is there was this group that by all accounts was not prosecuted, who supplied the entertainers. That's what these guys called themselves, entertainers. And they certainly did. I mean, you I think, written on all of this. So
Always for Angels. I was fascinated by their texts with Diddy, where he's like, they're asking him for 600, and he says, laugh out loud, he couldn't perform, and just their feigned shock, and he could be skydiving or anything like that. And you wonder if there's some kind of investigation into that, but it also seems like they keep themselves at a distance enough that, I mean, what are we really prioritizing in America right now?
Well, in the world where I read some statistic, I don't know if it's true. I probably shouldn't repeat it without doing the independent research, but of women between the age of 18 and I want to say 28, that of a certain demographic, something like 20% on OnlyFans, that to me is mind-boggling when you think about it. I'm mind-boggling. I mean, it's just it's hard to believe 1 out of 5 of whatever this strata is of the demographic on OnlyFans. And obviously, what I always say is, okay, well, that's an amazing statistic. But when you hear about how much they're earning, who's their audience, and who's the demographic who's spending the money to make these people have the ability to live these great lifestyles.
Yeah, no, it's everywhere.